First of all, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us on Smart Water Wednesdays. Today we are joined by a very special guest, our VP of Customer Operations at HydroPoint, Mr. Amir Omar. Amir, thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Really appreciate it, Ben. Big fan of your work, and thrilled to actually be able to be a contributor this time.
Likewise. Thanks for making time. Today we are going to take on the topic called ensuring customer success. And this is something that both Amir and I hold very near and dear to our hearts. This is something that I have been doing on the outside of HydroPoint for a very long time, just working with customers on the front lines. But Amir has built this into an organizational structure for us and added a lot of working parts that happen behind the scenes to ensure that our customers are getting from our technology the outcomes that they set out to achieve, right? In this discussion, in this forum, we often talk about how water management is a practice, how water management is a task. It's not a technology, it's not a feature, it's something that you have to kind of get elbow deep in to make sure to steward and to make sure that you are successful in. And while WeatherTrack is a great tool in that, WeatherTrack, when left to its own devices, can waste as much water as any other controller. So we talk about how we have to actually steward this as a project. Water management is a practice. And today, what I want to show you guys is what Amir has done on the backside of our organization to make sure that we are meeting your needs at every step of the way, to make sure that you have the tools and resources to take our technology, implement that technology, and achieve success, however you define it, using WeatherTrack. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Amir to explain a little bit of the structure that you've created.
Yeah, so we're ultimately going to be spending probably the greater portion of our time on the right side of our screen. But as a high point, I think it's important to point out that every element along the way of what it takes to make sure that you're successful are kind of encompassed in the organizations that I have an opportunity to lead. And I'll spend a tiny bit more time on each of these, but high level, we've got obviously customer support, which the vast majority of our customers do get an opportunity to interact with. Hydro Analytics, which is probably the least known of our different organizations, and I'll spend a moment or two talking about them here in a little bit. Professional services. So professional services is important, especially if you don't have your own team that can execute a professional installation and really get everything kind of dialed in and installed properly. A proper install, whether by us or by your own team, is so critical in giving you an opportunity to succeed. And we'll speak briefly about them as well. And then
that's where I started.
Yes, that is.
Unite in that category.
That's right. That's right. That's where all the good people are. And then of course, customer success, which is kind of the final element of this, is where we're going to focus a little bit today. And it really just drives home the idea of, are we able to get what we want to get out of our investment? So, just philosophically, this is kind of a goofy slide, but it's important to kind of know how we operate. We recognize that as we continue as an organization to build out new products, new services, new solutions, that they will add additional challenges. And that means more training internally, more training externally, to make sure that we are properly delivering those elements to you. As an organization, although we welcome compliments, we rarely will kind of raise up our hands and say mission accomplished, that the job is done. We're very much a group of individuals and a group of organizations that look at continuous incremental improvement as the process by which we just get better every week, every month, every year. Understanding that perfection is kind of one of those things that we'll never achieve, but that we will continue to strive to achieve. So we can
And
go from there.
I really, I want to focus on this for a minute, because when you talked about it in the first company meeting that you brought this up in, it really rang true with me. Like a lot of times I see our organization trying to take huge chunks, huge pieces of the pie at a time. And your philosophy was, let's just measure today against yesterday. Let's make sure that today we're better. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this continuous focus on what we can do better and implementing that has really made a difference in the way that I go about doing my business. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. It really does lend to prioritizing what's important.
It's also more sustainable. If every time you're trying to go from 0 to 100 miles an hour in one step, it's just it can break the back of an organization, and ultimately you may not even get to the goal. So being able to go, from 0 to 1 to 2, eventually you get to 100, and you get there in a more sustained way, and that's literally how we've run just about every part of our organization.
And not to beat a dead horse, but it is so important in a living environment like a customer service unit, right? Where that phone's never going to stop ringing. There's always going to be somebody with questions or that needs help. And so to have that mentality that today we're just going to improve the process, we're going to make it smoother than it was yesterday, I think is a great way to maintain focus in a living, adapting environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So speaking of customer support, our organization is based in Boise. Chris Mendiola leads that team. He's an amazing director that has really brought a lot of call center experience to driving that team. So, when we were a small shop and we just had a few support reps, we did a good job with what we had. But as we continue to grow as a company, the need to start looking at things that, like a call center will, to make sure that we're ensuring customers are being handled in a reasonable amount of time, that the training and all the things that are needed to make those people as informed as possible really fulfills what the customer goal is. And a couple things to point out on this slide specifically is, the idea that our products as a whole are really reliable and well built. So we find that a number of our phone calls, and you'll see it in a slide maybe in a moment, a number of our phone calls are literally just basic training. How do you set something up? So customers will call us asking for that. And we're not one of those companies that says, hey, go look it up on our website. We'll walk you through it. Now, obviously, if you want to self-help, we have those resources available, but we also do take care of these things on the customer support side. And we also do something that we've added on over the last couple of years is acceptance testing. So as we get new products and services, aside from all the work our engineering team does, our customer support team now also is a big part of testing and ultimately accepting a new product before it comes in. Ultimately, they're going to be the ones responsible for supporting them.
So those customer service agents are the front lines of the new features to provide the feedback and the support that they need. That's awesome.
Many times. Yep. And this slide we'll spend 2 seconds on, but the high level point is we track just about everything. We're looking at calls. We're looking at our service level. We're trying to get as many calls, if not all calls, answered inside of 3 minutes. So there should, our goal is to not have longer than a 3-minute hold. That service level right there at the top center really gauges how we do against that number. The bottom one, if you've ever called us and you called us by mobile phone, if you're a frequent caller, you'll only get one of these like once a week. But if you've ever called, you should get a request to grade us from a scale of 0 to 5 or 1 to 5. And we not only track that, but we also look for those unhappy customers. If there is a scenario where someone's giving us a 3 or less, one of our managers oftentimes will pick up the phone, call, and try to understand exactly what happened. Sometimes it was just a miss button press, which we appreciate that as well. But other times there's something that we missed in that call, and it gives us an opportunity to close that gap. So overall, we're thrilled with the continued improvement that comes from this support team, and this is a part of it, just measuring just about everything.
Yeah, and I think of this as an action item for the listeners, right? That if you didn't know, you should know that that survey that comes to you after a support call is important to us. Your feedback really is viewed and seen. So if you can take the time to fill that out instead of just disregard it, we really do want to know if what your customer experience was, or if there was something that we could improve. So
Yeah.
awesome.
And this is, we can almost skip this slide. It's just one more slide that shows you all the different things that we are tracking and watching.
Right, and a ton. And this is where, just so you know, I look at this information that helps guide the trainings, right? I look, when I'm developing training topics, I look at what is the most frequent customer service call and adapt the training materials to match.
Yeah. Perfect.
Oh,
We
that
love
was
that you
this
do
slide.
that. And that's this slide, right? So
I'm sorry.
you can see, and it's one of the fun things to look at for us, but access requests and firmware updates and programming and tutorials, those are the kinds of things we get as far as our highest call drivers. It's not necessarily my system's broken or something's not working right. It's usually, how do I make this work? And we do that training, and that's a very large percentage of our calls, is serving the customer less than necessarily solving a problem that our controller is doing something incorrectly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
So one of the other teams that I get an opportunity to lead, and again, I don't think there's any supporting slides to this, it's just this one slide, but these are our numbers guys. So they are the ones who are literally doing everything from, if a customer's interested in us and they're curious about what kind of savings they might be able to get, they're the ones that do all that math and then produce a document for us. They also are a big supporter of our HPM product and service. So they will actually help produce those monthly and year to date, which happen once a quarter, presentations that include things like, how much water did I save? How many gallons? How many dollars? And all sorts of other stats. So these are our gurus. They're the smartest people in our company when it comes to the data behind how customers do, and they're really a critical part of how we deliver what we deliver in customer ops.
And in a previous episode, we talked about the savings analysis, how in the pre-sales step, we can really kind of take a look at your site and project how an ET schedule might save you water. This is the same team. This is where that team started, right? They started with water bills and have since turned it into an essential arm of the customer success journey.
Yeah, I think we're managing something like 60 or 70,000 water bills on an annual basis right now, and it looks like we'll have another record year this year. So that continues to grow as more and more customers ask us to help them really achieve the success that they're trying to achieve.
That's awesome. All right.
On the pro services side, I can't say enough about this group, but the short version so that we can jump into success is, if you do not have the expertise in your organization to help you get things installed properly, these folks are really fantastic. And especially if you think of project management, we recently completed a 500 site installation for a large national organization over the course of something like 3 months. So this team not only can do really fantastic installations for our customers, but they can also help manage that project, because you may not either have the resources or the desire to manage how we're going to get all the way to all 500 sites taken care of. We do that. We report to you regularly and let you know how it's going. And then also a part of this organization is the work that Ben does in our training organization. Many times those pro services engagements include a training element to them. As the customer's getting the new equipment, we try to make sure that they have opportunities for training. And so that's where things kind of fit hand in glove.
Absolutely. Sprinkler nerds unite.
That's right. And now kind of the meat of hopefully today's conversation, which is customer success. In effect, I had to do some of those other things because so much of those 3 previous steps fill and create the environment for customer success to be able to do what they're tasked with doing. Overall, this year, the team has grown to a 9-member organization. This includes what we call customer success specialists, as well as customer engagement specialists. And the customer success specialists, where we're going to be focusing most of our time, is going to be really helping deliver a service we call HPM, which is HydroPoint Performance Management. They are also the folks that not only are monitoring controllers for HPM customers, but they're also monitoring your water compass devices, which I know you've done a talk or two about that.
Yeah.
So they do those as well. And then if you're a new customer that is piloting equipment with us, they're also the folks that are managing and monitoring those devices and reporting back either to the customer or to our partner that is leading that particular pilot effort.
So to me, this is where it gets very interesting, right? All of those pieces of the puzzle that we've previously talked about were in existence, but working autonomously. And what you've done is structure them to all work together as one big team, and provide a backbone for the information and support that this customer success team can then roll into a customer-facing product, right? Where for many years when I was teaching people about WeatherTrack, there had to be somebody listening, right? There had to be somebody on that other end that takes the information from the WeatherTrack and turns it into action in the field. And that's really, in my eyes, what customer success is doing. It's training organizations how to do that, how to take the next step in water management. So I went the wrong way.
That's all right. There we go. Cool.
I'll leave that to you to explain.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we have, and I just mentioned the role, but the customer success specialist is really key to this particular effort. Now, some of the water nerds, as you say, are already super skilled and talented at this sort of thing. If you're already a water manager, if you already monitor or are watching our controllers or other customer controllers in order to deliver something to the customer, this is essentially that. So we are, for the customers that don't have that particular kind of person on their team, or a person who's managing so many other pieces of the puzzle as well that they could use additional help, this is where our customer success team comes. And it's been wildly successful. I think we just did some stats, and there's like a 98% renewal on people who have decided to take on this service, because it really brings additional value. They're watching on a daily basis what's going on with your landscape, with the products and services that we've sold you, and ultimately they're helping you make sure that you're getting the most out of that investment.
Right. And what I see on my side is just organizations that don't lack the desire to have this execute and succeed, but they just don't know all of the moving parts, right? They don't know all of the calls and the things to watch and the structure behind the actual day-to-day management of it. And that's where these customer success specialists step in and walk alongside that customer and help them see the red flags, understand what the red flags are and what they mean, right? And really guide them into a place where their organization can sustain and be on top of it without feeling overwhelmed at the front end of a project like this.
Yeah, perfect. And those customer success specialists are going to be working just hand in glove with your landscaper team, with your own internal team or your exec teams, to be able to really kind of get and resolve all the questions, right? So making sure that we are maximizing any programming questions or needs. When a landscaper is needing to reseed or put in new spring plantings as spring is upon us, they actually will work hand in hand with your landscaper. And if the landscaper, for example, informs our CSS that, hey, I'm about to put new plantings on zone 3 and zone 7 at such and such site, we'll make the adjustments, and then we'll ask the landscaper how much time we need a little extra water in those zones, so they don't just stay in a permanent state of getting extra water for the next 2 months when that may not be necessary. And so those sorts of elements, those adjustments along the way are really critical part of what our customer success specialists are doing.
And a key pitfall,
Alerts,
just so you know,
yeah.
just like so everybody is on the same page, that is where a ton of gallons get lost. I have new sod, I want to water in the new sod, but then nobody remembers to go and change that program back. And that's exactly the kind of support that customer success is designed to provide.
Absolutely, and you see on this page as well, and there's so many different things the customer success specialist does, and I don't necessarily want to go into every single detail, but alert maintenance is a really good one as well, right? Many times your landscaper is not going to be as interested or attuned to, let's say, a valve no connect or an alert like that. And so we, as an organization, are watching those things because we know ultimately that if a valve no connect is impacting legitimate landscape, that's landscape that will get stressed and die over time. So aside from helping you just save water, we also are looking out for your plant material and your investment in those plants, because in many cases, it's more expensive than any of this other stuff. So we want to make sure that there's an extra set of eyes on those, that that we are reaching out to your landscaper on your behalf to at least remind them that, hey, this is something next time you're out there, if you'll please check, just to make sure that we're not killing something out there by way of a bad wire in the field, so on and so forth. So any of those elements are a part of what we do as your set of eyes, and ultimately kind of an extra hand to help you get what you wanted out of your investment in HydroPoint.
Yeah, like it. So let's talk about some of those outcomes.
Yeah. So I talk about water savings, I talk about plant material, but the truth is every single customer is working with us for a different reason. I mentioned before we kind of started the official part of this program that I once had an opportunity to serve in city government, and I will tell you that one of the phone calls that you hate to hear is the guy who walks his dog by a park at 4 a.m. in the morning and sees water gushing into the air. And he calls his councilman and says, hey, what's going on? I've been walking by for the last 2 weeks and your water's shooting straight up into the air. So things like, your corporate image, or in this case, your city or municipality or governmental image, our equipment has the opportunity to really highlight things that are going on with flow sensors and other things. And HPM and our customer success team really tries to take a little bit of time to understand what are the things that are most important to you as an organization. If you're a company that's trying to achieve a certain water savings goal and that's the goal you need to hit by 2022, we're going to work with you to make sure that those things are the things we highlight as we work with your gear, your sites, your site managers, and your landscapers. If it's reducing risk and liability, or if it's organizational efficiency, all of those things are things that we're going to take extra time and care to try and help you deliver. Because it's one thing to make a decision to invest in what it is that we do, and we do a phenomenal job and have amazing customers pretty much in every sector. It's another thing to actually deliver on the promise of what it was you were hoping to get out of this. And so this is where HPM really shines, and identifying, understanding your needs, what your goals are, and then helping you get there no matter what they are.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so important to hear from our organization that we recognize that water savings isn't the only outcome. It is the one we lead with for sure, but it's not the driver for every customer. And so just taking a second to walk the path of that customer and walk in their shoes and understand what their priorities are is such a key part of what I think the value proposition of customer success is. We don't always define customer success as the same thing, other than it is what the customer thinks it is.
That's right. That's right. And I talked a little bit about not only what we do, but on a monthly basis and ultimately on a quarterly basis, you not only get a monthly snapshot of how you're doing on a monthly basis, but on a quarterly basis, we're going to give you a year-to-date view of how things are going. So if gallons or dollar savings are the thing that you're focused on, we've got a slide for that. We've got a particular data point for that can really help continue to guide how you're doing overall as an organization on that particular goal. If you look at kind of some of those other sample slides along the right side, you'll see, right? Things like how fast are you guys, is your landscape team helping us open and close cases. So we'll open a case when we see something that no connect that I mentioned that could be killing your plant material. Well, if on average, in this particular case, if on average it takes you 6 days to close those out, that can be important. And so we want to continuously measure how we're doing with your landscaper. And what we find is that many times landscapers and site managers become more and more responsive the more we work with them. So where we start off maybe with a 6 or 7 or 8 day average response to certain cases that we're opening, very quickly as the landscaper realizes we're working with them to get the very best outcome for the customer, all of a sudden they're turning on a dime, making sure that they're checking those things whenever they're next at the site, or giving us that feedback that says, oh yeah, that's we disconnected that zone because it's no longer going to be operating. Perfect. We close the case. Or gosh, I overlooked that, but now I know that that's something I need to look at. Let me get out there. And all of a sudden you see that average time go from, again, 7 or 8 days to 5, 4, 3 days on average in terms of closing cases or helping us close cases, which ultimately means you're either saving money faster and more efficiently, or you're solving one of the many other problems that we identify more quickly along the way.
And in my eyes, what that shows is not only the value of your support, but it also shows the trend that the landscaper is investing in the technology, understanding that information, understanding that alerts aren't just noise, but they are action items that require somebody to go look at it. And just the physical act of following up on that is exactly what so many of the customers were missing before this step, right? They just didn't know how to jump into the deep end of the pool.
And this is probably the one part that some of our customers are able to do on their own beautifully, and it works well. Others find that it's just, it becomes, especially as you get more and more sites and more devices out there, it becomes more of a challenge and more of a time requirement. And to have experts that have been working with our equipment and have seen these examples across so many other customers, we're managing something like 5,000 devices currently. So we have a pretty good idea of what's going on many times as we're looking at it, and we're able to really help solve the problems. And where you don't have the capability, if you don't have the capability or time to do it, this is where we've really brought value to a lot of our customers.
I love it. That's awesome. So that brings us to that. I finish off with this support slide every week.
Oh, cool.
So I'm going to go back to your face and stop sharing for a second. I have a standing question for all my new guests. I'm going to switch it up for HydroPoint because my standard question is, what does WeatherTrack save you? And I could hear any number of the stories about your customers, but I want it to be personal. And so I've decided to move you right into the second stage. And I ask all my second time guests, what is your favorite WeatherTrack feature? Do you have a favorite WeatherTrack feature?
I do. I mean, I have it on my own lawn as well. So I tinker around with it. But I would say probably my favorite is also the favorite, a favorite that we have for customer success, because it really helps drive the right actions and behaviors. And that's our percent adjust feature. The ability to be able to keep the controller still in ET mode and still being able to get that information to drive decisions in terms of how much water to put down is important. But then to realize, hey, this particular zone is getting just a little bit too much water, or it's starting to look a little bit dry, instead of really swinging the pendulum and go way overboard to try and adjust, making those small percentage adjusts really can help you continue to be efficient while also making sure that your plant material are getting the very best and most correct amount of water. So that's my personal favorite, and I think probably the favorite of most of my CSSs.
I love it. I say that a different way. Every station is its own unique little monster, right? And so our best effort to dial that in might require some fine tuning, and that percent adjust is a great way to do that. In fact, it's been highlighted on many of our management videos. So great job. Let me go back and share my screen again while we wrap up. I want to give a shout out to what is coming next. First of all, as we have highlighted throughout this conversation, we are here to support you, right? We have folks on the front line at the customer support team that you can reach via email or phone, bilingual support every day or 6 days a week. We have online resources and training resources at your disposal as part of the value proposition in using WeatherTrack. That's all included with what you get. So next week, very excited. Now we are in episode 41. Eric Santos was scheduled to be a couple weeks ago, and we had to shuffle things around. But Eric was my first time guest. Eric was the first guest on the first episode, and he is coming back to join us. Eric is a very, very well-known and very well-respected water manager, heads up the irrigation division of Brightview, and has many, many letters that follow his name that prove what a smart irrigation guy he is. He'll be joining me next week to talk about spring startup, and we'll talk about tips and tricks and some WeatherTrack stuff, some irrigation stuff, and it's set to be a lot of fun. So thanks for joining us this week. And Amir, thank you so much for making time to speak to our customers about all of the support structure and all of the resources they have available to them.
My pleasure. Eric's a big deal, so I'm looking forward to next week's episode. Thank you so much, Ben, for everything you're doing.
Thanks. Have a great week, everyone.